Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and Nick Fury sneaking throughout the MCU has always been nearly impossible to track. This is the guy who faked his death well enough to fool 2 Avengers, hid an Infinity Stone for over a decade, lived in Hawkeye's barn for a bit, and apparently has a Skrull duplicate of himself at his disposal. And it is this insane twist revealed in the Spider-Man Far From Home post-credit scene that has led to one of the most perplexing mysteries that fans are still wondering about. How long has the Skrull Talos been posing as Nick Fury? How long has Nick Fury been in a Skrull space station? Where are Nick Fury's shoes? Last time he trusted someone, he lost a sandal. A new theory has emerged about the exact timeline of Nick Fury's recent history in the MCU and his relationship with the Skrulls. There is actually enough evidence to suggest that the Nick Fury we have been following since 2014 in Captain America Winter Soldier has, in many key moments, actually been a Skrull. A deception that is a total conspiracy. And before I continue, thank you to CuriosityStream for sponsoring this episode. Stick around for details later this episode on how you can get your first 30 days of this amazing streaming service for free. Okay, recently on Reddit, user Jacob Wallface theorized that Fury has been replaced by Talos as far back as Captain America the Winter Soldier, and that Nick Fury's cameos in Age of Ultron, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Infinity War, and Endgame, like Far From Home, were all Skrull Fury. It's an interesting theory because yes, there are some inconsistencies with Fury's past behavior that I had pointed out in past episodes of this show. Like in Captain Marvel, a major plot point centered around the fact that no one ever calls Fury Nick. Yet, in the Infinity War post-credit scene, Maria Hill referred to him as Nick 3 times.
We'll meet him at
Some have also pointed to Fury telling Carol Danvers that he never eats toast when it's sliced diagonally. But some have pointed out this one scene in Age of Ultron where he does slice bread. But I have to say, folks, no matter how many times these online dunters claim it to be true, Fury does not cut that bread diagonally. Look at the slice closely. There are clearly 4 corners, 4 sides. He cut it into rectangles. Also, it's bread, not toast. Just please stop quoting that stupid BuzzFeed blogger or whoever said that first. Trust the guy who spends every waking hour staring at frames of Marvel films. It's not diagonal. I do love that Reddit theory though. The problem is, it has been partially refuted by Spider-Man Far From Home director Jon Watts, who confirmed that the Nick Fury we saw at Tony Stark's funeral at the end of Avengers Endgame was the real Nick Fury, not Talos. He said, I think it's the real Nick Fury at the funeral, and I think Talos got a debrief from Nick Fury about this the last time they saw each other. So this tells us that Fury, post-2014, could not have been exclusively Talos, but I do believe that after Winter Soldier, many of the times we've seen Fury, we've actually been seeing Skrull Fury. Let's start with the Winter Soldier. In this film, Fury fakes his own death after being shot several times in life-threatening spots across his body. Miraculously, he survives, something that he probably should not have been able to pull off and really would have benefited from having a second version of him to step in. But the ending of Winter Soldier is thematically significant for Fury's character. He torches his eye patch, he goes off the grid, he says he's headed to Europe. He actually looks over his own fake grave with an awesome Pulp Fiction reference on it, and he tells Sam and Cap,
anybody asks for me, tell them they can find me right here.
yeah, I think that Fury is the real guy. It would just be really weird if it was Talos impersonating Fury for all these big character moments. But I will say I'm not convinced that he actually went to Europe. I don't care what the Prelude comics suggest. Nick Fury's S.H.I.E.L.D. security apparatus on Earth has collapsed. Other than the Avengers, there's no one on this planet that he can trust. And that is why I believe Fury's next move was to go off-world. I'll explain how that works. But first, thank you to our sponsor, CuriosityStream, for helping us make this episode. CuriosityStream is a subscription streaming service that offers thousands of documentaries and nonfiction titles from some of the world's best filmmakers, including exclusive originals. I've really enjoyed watching Dream the Future, narrated by Ellen Ripley herself, Sigourney Weaver, on CuriosityStream, and the short film, The Science of Deception. It's given me all kinds of ideas on how to deceive YouTube commenters into liking me more. I got my own little total conspiracy going on here. CuriosityStream is available worldwide on tons of platforms like Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, and their web app. Get unlimited access starting at just $2.99 a month or $19.99 a year. And for our audience, the first 30 days are completely free if you sign up at curiositystream.com/newrockstars and use the promo code New Rockstars. Okay, back to Fury in space. I believe that after S.H.I.E.L.D. collapsed in 2014, Fury worked with his Skrull contacts to build a new security force, a space command spin-off of S.H.I.E.L.D. from the Marvel Comics known as SWORD, with its space station headquarters known as the Peak. I think that is where Fury is in the Far From Home post-credits scene. And I think that is why earlier in that film, Talos and Soren discuss Kree sleeper cells.
I thought Kree having sleeper cells was top secret information.
Nick,
Again, Nick! But what does this mean for the Fury we've seen in the years since 2014? Well, the Fury in Avengers Age of Ultron definitely seems a bit out of character. And I'm not talking about the bread thing, which isn't a thing, stop trying to make it happen. But when scolding Stark in the barn about building Ultron, Fury says,
Artificial intelligence. You never even hesitated.
Fury talks as if he has a lot of experience with AI turning on humanity. Now, he could be referring to Arnim Zola, that ghost in the machine, but I don't know if that was a fully artificial intelligence the way Ultron or Jarvis were. You could make the case that this could be Talos referring to the Kree Supreme Intelligence, which was a true AI involved in some very sinister manipulations. When giving his motivational speech to the Avengers in Hawkeye's farmhouse, Fury says,
Here we all are, back on Earth.
so why would Fury say back on Earth? None of the people in this room had left the planet at this point, aside from Stark, I suppose, throwing the nuke through the wormhole in the first Avengers. But really, that was just for a few seconds. Thor, of course, comes from another planet, but he was on his own side quest in this moment in Age of Ultron. To me, Fury saying back on Earth reminds me a lot of that big Talos clue snuck in early on in Far From Home.
Mr. Beck is from Earth, just not yours.
Now, yours was changed from ours in the Far From Home trailer. A hint that this Fury isn't from Earth, and I believe neither is the Gabby extraterrestrial in the Clint farmhouse. Later on in Age of Ultron, Fury and Hill appear on a helicarrier to help rescue the Sokovians.
Nice, Ray. Pulled her out of mothballs with a couple of old friends.
Presumably, Fury had some old spy contacts that allowed him to hijack an old S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier in storage, but I doubt that the government or the still Hydra-influenced S.H.I.E.L.D. remnants would make that hijacking that easy. Maybe Fury's friends are the Skrulls, who could have helped him hide an extra helicarrier. We know that their space shuttles have cloaking technology, as does the helicarrier, which could have stayed in Earth's orbit. They could have kept this specifically for rescue operations like this one. As refugees themselves, the Skrulls would consider that a top priority. This humanitarian agenda was specifically called out in this scene.
This is S.H.I.E.L.D.?
This is what S.H.I.E.L.D's supposed to be.
So I think we might be looking at Skrull Fury in Age of Ultron. I think the same could be true for the Fury who saved Fitz and Simmons in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and, of course, the Fury that we saw in the Infinity War post-credit scene. Again, Maria Hill calls him Nick 3 times. And they're driving, just as Fury and Hill were rolling around in a black SUV in Far From Home. Talos and Soren just love driving. Hill mentions that they're monitoring satellites, and Fury mentions contacting Klein at Control. I think they both could be referring to their Skrull command center in Earth's orbit on the Peak. That would make it Talos and Soren, who dusted away at the end of Infinity War. Who knows what happened to the real Fury and Hill? But 5 years later, I believe the Fury at Tony Stark's funeral is the real Fury, as Watts confirmed. Like everyone present at this funeral is there for their own personal attachment to Tony. Talos wouldn't need to pose as Fury here just for appearance's sake, but I do believe that Fury attended this funeral, and it was here that he received Tony's Edith glasses. But he shortly after returned to space, had Talos resume his post, and pass the glasses on to Peter Parker. The latest switcheroo in this ongoing Olsen twin-style long con between two Furies, allowing him to
keep both eyes open.
Something he can only do if he is willing to coordinate a
Total conspiracy.
Do you think the Nick Fury in Age of Ultron Infinity War was actually the Skrull Talos? Comment down below with your thoughts. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Erik Voss. And subscribe to New Rockstars as we seek to uncover every total conspiracy. Thank you for joining me, and has anyone dug up Fury's grave? Like, what if the real Fury's hiding in there? I told you you could find me right here, mother...